Hey everybody, welcome to PC Perspective. We are here with a special live stream to talk about a couple of topics. With me, again, Tom Petersen.
Hey, Ryan.
From NVIDIA. How are you?
It's great to see you, brother.
Good
to see you.
And we have a couple of things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about G-Sync.
Yep.
We're going to talk about Shield Tablet.
Yes.
We're going to demo a new G-Sync technology, feature, whatever you want to call it.
I think people expect it to be there, but we're going to show it. It is here.
Show it working, and it's actually functioning.
And it's new, soon.
Right. So you have actually been here before to talk about G-Sync.
I have.
Okay. It was a while ago. It was maybe, let's say, October-ish of 2013.
Yeah. I think you and I had actually talked around it privately earlier than that.
Yes. But we have actually, so you kind of released that ASUS upgrade DIY kit, the PG278Q.
Yes.
I think Alan looked at it.
Yeah, you installed it, right?
I did. Yeah, he
went okay?
Yeah. Went okay, but I never considered that like an actual release of a G-Sync panel, right? It was very limited.
Right.
Couldn't buy it on Amazon.
And it wasn't perfectly tuned either, right? It didn't have, like, you wouldn't look at that and say, oh my God, that's an amazing monitor.
Right. Agreed. But just in the last couple of weeks or so, we have posted a review, actually at PCPer.com, of the ASUS ROG Swift, Republic of Gamers brand, the PG278Q. And it's important that everybody remembers those specific...
Those are the numbers.
PG278Q, not PB278Q or PG287Q. Those are different monitors.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. Those are all different monitors, and they all actually exist. So don't do that. PG278Q is a 2560 by 1440, 144 hertz refresh rate.
Max,
yeah. G-Sync enabled panel. Yes, you're excited.
I am so excited.
This has been your baby for a while.
I'm so excited.
So, do you want to? I mean, we talked about the technology quite a bit. We talked about the technology in the review. I mean, this is we have a setup here, and then we had another one off to the side, but it was hiding us, and we didn't want to hide us.
The monitor.
Yeah, the monitor. Another PG.
So now we're going to
show you a picture of it.
Yeah, and the picture of the monitor, it doesn't do it justice because it is a beautiful monitor. Maybe when we get over here, we can pull it up and show people. Yeah. But what I love about it most, other than it's an excellent review, by the way, is that it does have G-Sync in it, and this is the module that we talked about last year, right?
Yeah.
And it's got an FPGA on it that we're using to sort of receive DisplayPort and then do a bunch of complex calculations on it and then send it on to the panel.
Is this still actually what the G-Sync module looks like today?
Yeah, it's exactly the same form factor as before. It just kind of slots into a little mating connector in their baseboard. So inside the monitor, ASUS has done a baseboard that's kind of the other circuit board inside the monitor, and this kind of just plugs right into that.
Okay.
So yeah, it's now in full production. And I'll answer a couple technical questions about this module that seem to be coming up, so I'll clarify a few things. Okay. And then, of course, this is just how G-Sync works. We do a quick recap of G-Sync. This is showing you time. And what normally happens with the GPU is that the GPU draws while the monitor is actually scanning the prior frame. And once you're done drawing, you'll scan it out on the next fixed interval. This is a traditional monitor, and this is showing you a 16 millisecond refresh, which is a 60 hertz monitor, right? So you draw frame 1, and then you scan out frame 1 here. But what happens when you draw frame 2, and it takes slightly too long, which means your frame rate is slightly below 60, and you miss the window where you must begin the scan of the second frame. When that happens, we scan the last frame again. And so this replication of scan means that the motion freezes, and that freezing of motion is what we call a stutter. So finally, once you're finished scanning and you get done, you're ready to scan out, we'll scan you out at the next interval. So this also causes additional lag and stutter. That's what VSync does. And that's why a lot of gamers don't play with VSync on. Right. Now, the alternative to playing with VSync on is playing with VSync off. And this is just a screenshot, a hardware capture of, I think it's BF4. And when you turn VSync off, you no longer force the alignment of the monitor. Instead, you get these little strips. So this is frame 1, this is frame 2, and this is frame 3. And when you look at it, you get this little shimmery look on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at a single screenshot, it's painfully obvious. If you follow that tree line, it does not connect.
It does not connect, and your eye picks that up very easily.
Yeah, it does.
Now, what's causing that is the same thing. We're drawing in the GPU, and once we finish drawing, right away, we start showing it on the screen. But right here is a tear line, because back here we were showing a different screen, a different rendered frame. So this is frame 0, and now we're showing frame 1, and when we get to the refresh interval, we're going to begin showing frame 1 again, because frame 2 hasn't finished rendering. So these black lines, or these red dots, are where tears would occur that look, like this. These are all tears caused by render time completion.
Okay.
Okay, now what G-Sync does is fixes all that, and it does what, kind of how you would expect this stuff to work. It says, don't start the monitor scanning until I finish completing a screen draw. So you're drawing a frame, and once you finish drawing it, that's when the screen starts scanning. And then you draw another frame while that scan is happening. Once you finish drawing, you scan that. So the scans are no longer happening at a fixed interval, and instead they're happening exactly in sync with the draw rate. So effectively, the frame rate is controlling your refresh rate.
Okay. This would be an interesting graph to come back to. We have some questions, some of the more technical questions about issues like what happens if the draw time is less than the scan
Oh, yeah.
time,
Well, we could cover those now, or you want to cover them later?
Let's do it later. I'm going to kind of get the general overview.
Okay, so that's basically the general idea of G-Sync, and I think people have gotten it. It's the experience that is so much better that people don't actually expect it to be as good as it is.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of videos out there. We've actually done a few videos, and I think you've done a few videos that you can download off our website, and it shows you at 60 hertz what would this look like.
Right.
And it gives you a pretty good proxy. So people should go, if they want to, check out a few of those videos that are online and play them at 60 hertz. You get a sense of before and after.
Tries to demonstrate something that you can't really play back,
right?
Because anybody who's playing it back is playing it back on a 60 hertz or a fixed refresh rate display in general.
Yeah,
so,
but what we did to make a good proxy, and it does look very similar to the experience in life, is we did a perfect 60 hertz VSync on capture, and that perfect 60 hertz VSync capture is sort of our proxy for what G-Sync looks like. And you compare that to a normal 60 hertz capture that's got stutters and another one with tearing. It gives you a good sense of it.
Okay.
So that's G-Sync. And what's really excited about for me is that it's here in the market today. And we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. So let me show you what ASUS has done. So you already did a review of this, of course, but this is the very first production monitor that's using G-Sync at 144 hertz. So the peak frequency is 144, and you do get just amazing graphical images. Now, another benefit of this monitor is they've got a really thin bezel. And obviously that thin bezel is for multiple monitor setups, right?
Right.
So we've had a couple of questions from folks. What are we going to do for surround with G-Sync?
Right.
And I think I've said before, we are going to support surround with G-Sync. And today, actually, I think we're ready to demo it, right? So this is going to be coming very soon to a driver that'll be public. It's not public quite yet, so we're still in beta.
Yep.
But this will be sooner than you think available for a user to download.
Shall we show it, perhaps?
We should. We should show it.
All right. So what we have here is, I'm going to try not to block the screen. We have a set of 3 of the PG278Qs ROG Swift monitors set up in G-Sync Surround. Right. The setup process is basically the same, right?
Yeah, it's got a new interface, but don't worry about that. That new interface will be making surround setup a little bit easier. But effectively, it looks very similar and works very similar to the existing surround configuration.
So, and again, this is, we're showing this on video, and then we're showing it on a stream, or if you're watching it after the fact, you're watching a YouTube video capture. And so, even if you could, oh Lord, oh Lord.
You know what? You were actually doing pretty good there for a second.
The capture doesn't really show the real kind of benefits of G-Sync, right? And this is something that when we first saw it, at that event in Montreal, where it was more of like we had to editorially talk about what the experience is like, right? It's incredibly smooth. There's no tearing, and we're running at a non-fixed frame rate, right? A non-fixed refresh rate.
And in this case, we've also set bezel correction on. So if you look at you can probably see this on the screen. If you look at those bezels, they're now so thin that you really do get this experience of looking through sort of the front of your dashboard with a few support struts. And the geometry actually correctly, kind of looks like you're looking through the bezel. Did you kill yourself?
I was stuck. I'm restarting. It's fine. It's fine.
This will be good. This will be
now. I can actually run into.
All right, go. Let's do it. And we should put sound on. I guess to it.
They're getting the sound.
Oh, you're getting the sound?
Yeah.
Nice.
So, as somebody, I have used a lot of multi-monitor. Oh, this is not going to end well. Yeah.
You want me to try?
No, stay there. No. I don't need your help, thank you.
Okay, all right. You are a gamer, right?
Well, I'm using the keyboard to drive, so yeah.
Yeah, well, it does look really smooth from here.
It does up close, right? And like I said, as somebody who's used a lot of multi-monitor configurations, I've had access to the 3s and the 6s and the 5s. Like, the thinness of this bezel is actually pretty stunning, like, to see it in person.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I'm really
to what I
excited
have seen and used before.
Yeah, and this is actually the first time I've really said bezel correction is worth messing with, because it doesn't block out so much of the image that it's disruptive in itself.
Right.
The bezels are so thin that when you correct for what's left, it suddenly becomes really, really immersive, right? Or not immersive,
Yeah, don't use
enjoyable.
Yeah,
really enjoyable.
I don't like that word.
It's It's an enjoyable experience.
And you know, the ROG Swift, the 278Q that we're using here, it has the really thin bezels. It also has like a really robust kind of stand.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's got height adjustment, it's got tilt adjustment, it's got swivel. So it's actually really easy to kind of set the 3 monitors next to each other and actually adjust them to the right height. That's something that's always kind of been a pain for me.
Yeah.
With multi-monitor, is getting the bezels to actually perfectly line up anyway.
Do they have
for the best experience?
Mechanical sort of bezel alignment aids or anything?
No, not really.
Ah, that's too bad.
No.
I've been talking to some of the guys saying, you know what we really need is just little clips,
like little clips to keep it in
or like
place.
little bar, something that you can just say, hey, this is this is the alignment point.
I like to use gaff tape.
Gaff tape's good.
Yeah.
Gaff tape's good.
It also blocks any light that may peek through.
That is actually really good.
Which is a really good idea there.
Yeah.
So, okay, I can.
Good job.
Look at that.
Ryan Shrout, ladies and gentlemen. Ryan Shrout.
So, you know, the monitor, like, even if I take G-Sync technology out of the discussion, the monitor itself is pretty good. This I think is the first retail available 2560 by 1440, 144 hertz panel.
I think you might be right.
Period.
I think so.
Right? So it's showing all my cool crashes. So
you did good. You did good.
It is a TN panel, but Alan is a monitor snob, if you will, and he liked the result of the TN panel, right? It's not as good as a PLS or an IPS, but it's really, really, really good for a TN panel. Now, I think most people would be surprised by that.
I was told that the viewing angles are actually really good for a TN panel.
They are.
I mean,
they absolutely are.
I'm looking at it from here, and I see absolutely no color shifts of any kind. I'm assuming that you guys commented on the good angle viewing.
We did, yes, in the review. That's in there. So I'll go ahead and start our next.
What are we doing? Metro?
Little demo. We're going to do Metro Last Light. This is kind of the integrated benchmark, but this does a lot of really cool slow pans as well, which is when you're testing something like this on VSync on or VSync off systems, it's very obvious now what is either the stutter or the tearing.
Yes.
Right? I'm sure we're having questions in the chat. The system powering this is a Sandy Bridge E platform, right? So it's a 6-core platform with that. And it is a set of 3 GeForce GTX 780 Ti cards.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Did you lock it up?
No.
It just takes a long time to load?
Yeah, it does take a long time to load at this resolution. It's a large resolution. What is it? With the custom resolution is like 7894 by something?
Yeah, 7894 by what, 1920? Something?
1440.
1440.
1440.
I think you might be toast.
Yeah, I think it might be too.
Because that cursor's there.
It's not there anymore. I don't know.
Alt-tab?
Brian broke it.
I did.
Damn you.
I think it's starting to load.
It's trying.
This is what you do when you do things live.
Yeah. Let's do an Alt-tab and kill it. And then, there you go. Oh, you still see, did you have another 3D context stuff? I think I saw 2.
Yeah, looks like maybe I hit the button twice. There's 2 Metro logos down here.
Yeah, that never works. The
what do you mean?
The double Metro load, never a good idea.
No.
I've done this actually. I was on stage in Las Vegas with my boss, my boss's boss, and this exact thing happened where the demo got hit twice. And you can imagine how awkward that is in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah, it's just an awkward moment. But it all worked out in the end. We had a good laugh. I didn't get fired. Almost got fired, but did not. So it's good.
Huh. Well,
Let me
go
help.
back and show some more of the monitor photos and stuff.
Okay, you're going to work on that?
Yeah, I'll
All right,
get
and
those working.
I'll keep going over here.
I need to.
All right, so I'm on
task
stage
manage
alone.
this.
This is great. So if you dig through here, what they did on the monitor, which is really cool, is they added this little light around here. So you can see at the base, it's got a controllable light. It can be red or you can turn it off. But it does add a nice little sort of active glow. And we already mentioned the really thin bezel. So this guy works really well in surround. You can also do portrait mode. And another really cool feature about this monitor, it's got sort of a joystick on the back that you can use to control the HUD. So most of the time, for me, monitor HUDs are about impossible to negotiate. This has actually got a much more intuitive way of navigating through menus, which is very cool. This is showing you the little joystick up here that you can use instead of like, which button changes select and which button is choose. Now you've got a nice little joystick to navigate through the menus.
It works really well.
Yeah, it really does. And this is showing you a little bit of the HUD. So it's cool. You can adjust color and image quality. There's an OSD, and you also have the ability to set a center cursor. So you can kind of augment your game a little bit if you wanted the double red cursor, green, or even slightly different. So there's just a ton of extras on the monitor that makes it obviously really good for gaming. It's got some nice control for wires, nice little places to route, and the stand is a completely high quality. So overall, I got to tell you, it's one of the few monitors that was designed for gaming and is honestly really dramatically better for gaming. It's really exciting to be the first one really to hit production on G-Sync. Cool. So why don't I go ahead and answer that one question that keeps coming up while you're loading. Oh, are you back?
I think it's loading.
Oh, we're back.
There we go.
All right, back over to the demo. Good job.
By the way, a simple log out. If you log out, when you bring up Control Delete, you hit the log out. Windows takes care of everything. It closes it all.
Is that right?
Even though it refused to close any other way. Anyway,
wow.
Yeah. So this is running at that, quad 1440 resolution again, 7894 I think is what it is. And if you've ever run this like little benchmark scene before, this slow motion portion makes it painfully obvious. And also, I've never seen that train before.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
I've never seen the train before.
It's been there that whole time.
I don't think I've ever run this and paid attention in surround.
Well, the image is so disturbingly bad when you're running it on a traditional monitor because it's tearing and it's stuttering. It really is a mess.
Particularly like right here.
Yeah.
When that sign comes through, you usually get a huge amount of tearing or a huge amount of stuttering, and it is an impressively smooth thing.
It's silky.
And
what's the frame rate?
We're running at about 45 right now.
Right. That's
45,
right in the wheelhouse for G-Sync, where it really likes the frame rate of a game to kind of oscillate between 40 and 60, maybe 40 and 70, which is where really you get the best experience.
It's where it shows the most benefit, for sure.
But it is also a meaningfully interesting part of where people play games, right? It's not just...
Especially in surround or something like
ultra
that.
quality, whenever you're playing games. That looks really good.
It does. I think I made that chair maybe blocked away somewhere. Wow. And again, it's hard to show it on a stream. It's hard to really demonstrate it, but it is working, and it's like if you can see, there's no tearing going on here. It is set for run 1 of 50, so we'll see
how it goes. Keep it going the whole day.
Keep it going the entire stream.
Check that out.
It's pretty cool, and like. I'm not the only editor, kind of independent person that said that. Like, if you go read the G-Sync reviews that are out there,
they're pretty dramatic.
It's just kind of, people said it at that event in Montreal when you first launched it and announced it, that it's a fundamental difference in how
monitors work,
and how games work.
It's just so much, so obviously really cool. A better way to do it, right? I mean, anybody that's thought about monitors, that looks at this, agrees that obviously this is something that needs to happen, and we're excited to be leading the way on it. And that really does look awesome.
It's really cool.
Oh wow!
I know you said you were going to take all the monitors back, but that's
yeah. I think I am going to have to take these back.
I don't think you are.
Well, work it with BDR. Maybe you can do something. That is, I see this totally different now. Maybe it's because I'm back further than I normally am.
Yeah, and also it's actually kind of cool to see it further back.
Yeah, because you can take the whole thing in. You can take everything
on the
in,
sides, right?
I wonder if I actually played a first-person shooter back a little bit from the monitor, if it would be more impressive.
Do you know what I mean? It'd be an interesting trial.
It would. It'd be cool. Let's try it. Okay, so what's up? You want to do some more questions on G-Sync, or do you want to jump into?
We can do, so we have a lot of questions on G-Sync we can go through, or we can, we brought a shield tab. Actually, everything that we're showing you on this, don't scroll down in the comments, you never know what you're going to get.
I'm not scrolling in the comments.
We've been running on one of the NVIDIA Shield tablets. This is also an item that we reviewed. That was fairly impressive.
Yeah, it is. It's
so
actually really
let me finish off on the monitor, right?
Okay.
So there's a couple things. Scroll down just a little bit. It is a DisplayPort only connection.
Yes.
We had that question come up several times during the review, right? You can see there on the left, you got the power and the display port, and on the right, you've got some USB 3.0 connections. You have to connect this monitor to DisplayPort.
You have to.
Which also means to run 3 of them,
you need 3 cards.
You have to have 3 cards.
Yes.
And that is because NVIDIA's cards, as far as I know, all of them, are there any high-end cards that have more than one?
No.
I don't think there are.
Not that I know of.
So they only have one DisplayPort connection.
Yep.
That's kind of a problem.
It is.
It would be a question in here, but
Yeah.
will that be addressed in the future? Is that something like, you can't run more than one monitor off of a single DisplayPort output
Right.
with G-Sync?
Well, you could with MST, but obviously that's not happening today. Yeah.
Right.
So the way I'll answer that is we're not going to give any details, of course, about unreleased
I think
products.
we should have lots of details.
Lots of details about unreleased products. No, but so instead of answering that question of when would we do something like that, what I'll say instead is that it's certainly possible for NVIDIA to have GPUs and graphics cards that have more than one DP. Right, and we've heard from the market that that's a desired capability, right? And especially for G-Sync Surround, it'd be super great if we could do more than one DP. So obviously, we're looking at that for future products.
Okay, I would say, for using 3 of these monitors, it is a negative to have 3 GPUs. But you kind of need 3 GPUs to do it, right? I mean, if you look at the performance levels we're hitting with 370 Ti's, we're looking at. This range is, I think, anywhere from like 38 to about 60 frames a second. And we're running at medium preset on that.
Yeah, you're not way misbalanced having 3 GPUs, right? I mean, it's clear that people would like to have more display ports per card, and we're open to looking at that. I think, but the truth is, with 3-way G-Sync Surround at 1440 per, at 2514, you're going to need more than one GPU today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, good question.
We would like to be able to do it with 2 GPUs.
Yes.
So
or
that in mind.
5 GPUs would be even better.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know if it would be better, but it would be an option. It'd be an option. The USB 3 hub is nice. Just a little add-on there, but
nice.
Basically what I'm saying is don't expect to connect it through DVI or HDMI or something like that.
No, and the key thing is that this is for gaming. Right, and that's one thing that ASUS has been very clear about, and we've been very clear about, is this monitor is not for everybody. And ASUS may want to sell it everywhere, but honestly, it's for gamers.
Right.
And it's built with gamers. It's got some of the stuff removed that's not useful for gamers. So if you're not a gamer.
So I think that pretty much wraps up the monitor. It's not for sale yet in the US.
Okay.
ASUS still says August 26th, which is just 4 days away.
Oh my God, August 26th.
August 26th is when it'll be available. It is $799, which is steep.
It is steep.
It's an expensive monitor. Everybody, NVIDIA or ASUS will justify that by saying that it's the first 25 by 14, 144 hertz retail panel.
It's an awesome panel.
That in and of itself is a feature. Plus, it is a G-Sync monitor.
Is indeed G-Sync, which is a big deal.
It is. Obviously, everyone wants to see these prices a little bit lower.
Yeah. But it's like anything else. When they first come to market, you're going to see things priced at a premium, and as volumes build, prices will come down. That's the natural part of it.
Well, and there will be competition in this market relatively soon.
Yeah.
Maybe not at this resolution right away, but at different resolutions. You'll have multiple options.
Absolutely. And I think as you see more and more G-Sync options, that the market will work the way the market works. Prices will come down, volume will come up, availability increases.
Yeah, but from the feedback I've seen on Twitter and in our comment sections, I don't think you're going to have an issue selling those.
Selling them out.
Those first batch. People have been waiting for it for a
Take my money.
Take my money. Not to harp on the it's been a long time thing again, but people have been waiting for a very long time.
I know, I feel that.
To get their hands on the technology.
It's not easy technology. I'll mention that. I think I've said that before. This is not a trivial thing. And it's taken us a while to get it all right, working with all the games, getting all the, there's a lot of variation by games.
Yeah.
And all of that has to be dealt with in the G-Sync module. So it's been very exciting, but it's looking really, really good. And we're going to keep making it better.
Okay. Would you want to go through the G-Sync style questions first and then do...
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do G-Sync style and then, one chunk. So I was going to throw this up here and we can talk to it as questions.
Okay.
Now I want to answer one question that I know is on there and then, or that I suspect is on there.
Okay.
While I've got this graph.
Okay.
All right. So the question I think has come up a couple times is, does G-Sync add latency to my game? And what is that buffer on the chip for? Don't you write the frame into that buffer? And if you do, doesn't that add latency? That's one of the questions that I've seen many, many times. And since we've got this picture, let's talk to it. So it is true that this is a buffer. And what happens is data comes into the FPGA. And you know what I think I can do? I'm going to use a technology of Shield, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the Shield Dabbler app, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But this is an app that comes with Shield Tablet, and I'm going to use it as my whiteboard. Okay. So here's what happens. So effectively, the way this works is there's an input, let's call it DisplayPort, and it comes into the G-Sync module. Okay, so on the G-Sync module, the first thing it does is it hits our FPGA. Okay, so look at this. I can write on it nice. You can read it. Okay, and then that is going to have a bidirectional interface to DRAM. Okay, so there's 3 DRAM. We'll just put Ds on them. Okay, and then eventually the FPGA talks out to the panel. Okay, and there's another interface over here, LVDS. So effectively, this is the architecture, if you want to think about it, of that G-Sync module. You can actually read it, right? That's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it works.
Now, the way this works is as bits are being scanned, remember this is a serial stream, and it's coming from the top left to the bottom right pixel. Right, data's just streaming in. And as the data's streaming in, the FPGA does work to calculate the value of the pixel that we want to write out onto the panel. So what we're doing is we're using information stored in that array to compare that with the current pixel coming in so that we write the correct value to the panel. Okay, so it's a very simple idea. This is, I call that a look-aside buffer. And you call it a look-aside buffer. You know, CPUs have look-aside caches. It's kind of like a look-aside buffer where the data is coming in and streaming right onto the screen as fast as possible. And while it's streaming in, we know which pixel to compare against to do some simple calculations of what we need to write onto the panel. Now, as we're doing that comparison, we can now overwrite that last pixel with the new data. Right? And effectively, this buffer is a stream of information, sort of a first in, first out kind of buffer of old pixel data. Right?
Okay.
So that's the way to think about what's happening and why there's no additional latency. Because as you can see, as the bit comes in on DisplayPort, there's some very fast calculations on the FPGA, and then the bit goes right onto the panel. And I think people have been measuring this now that there's panels available, and you can do some high-speed camera captures, and you can validate that effectively the latency of G-Sync is approximately equal to V-Sync off. That's the fastest latency, and that it's approximately equal to V-Sync off when the frame rate is below max frame rate.
Below max refresh.
Right, and as the frame rate goes above max refresh, then the latency will approach V-Sync.
Okay.
Right, because that's what it is. Basically, the panel and the driver starts behaving like V-Sync is on.
Okay.
Okay, does that all make sense?
Yeah. So is this something that other panels do in some form, like the idea of a look-aside?
Yeah, other scalers. So this is similar to a scalar architecture, and a lot of scalars have memory, and a lot of them do comparisons with old data and new data to calculate the bit that goes on the screen.
Right.
Right. So it's not a dramatically new phenomenon that there's a buffer there. I think people are a little confused about how big it is and what the structure is, but we're not going to go into the technical details of what that buffer is exactly doing, other than to say it's look-aside and it's not affecting the latency to the panel. Right. The path from DisplayPort in to LVDS out is actually very, very quick, and it's optimized.
Okay. Yeah, because to be perfectly blunt, the reason this discussion came up is not just because there were questions, but that there was like kind of a direct insinuation, a direct statement from an AMD FAQ about FreeSync.
Oh my God.
That G-Sync added latency and theirs does not.
Yeah, I don't know why anybody that's an expert in the field would say something like that, because there's very clear explanations and examples of this in the past. Also, I'd encourage people who are making claims about G-Sync to test it. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. So, okay, that was a question, I guess. We'll get to more questions.
Get my thing here.
I think I can. You want to save it? Maybe an email out later?
I can send it to anybody who needs it. If you have any questions.
We'll draw a pretty version, maybe.
Any questions from anybody in the industry, I can help you out.
So let's get through a couple of questions again.
Okay, I'm going to keep my whiteboard.
Take it off this white.
All right, we'll take.
Go back to the home screen, so we have a not bright white image that's blasted.
There we go.
There. That's
nice. Better? All right, let's do it.
So from Julian. Asks, G-Sync partner companies like Acer, AOC, ASUS, BenQ, Philips are rumored to come out with non-G-Sync 4K monitors. Will NVIDIA make it possible to buy the modules separately and upgrade them for other displays like you did originally
for the
with
19x10.
VG248?
That's a really good question.
Or just for any monitor in general, will there be any other more upgrade path options?
Well, that's an interesting question. First of all, we make the module, which is just that board. We don't really make the baseboard, which is what goes inside the monitor, and there would need to be a baseboard made that worked with the form factor of every monitor. So
that's not you. That's not the case.
That's not us, right? We're not going to be making more baseboards. We will be making more G-Sync modules. And if somebody else develops baseboards and they say, hey, we would like a way to buy G-Sync modules, then if it made sense, we'd certainly look at it.
Right.
But right now, our path to market is to partner with OEMs who are going to build and integrate the whole thing and then buy it just like you do a normal monitor. So there's really no plan right now to do an aftermarket upgrade path for G-Sync because it's pretty integral to the monitor itself.
Okay. This one, will future reference cards have a different display connector layout? I think we've kind of already...
Yeah, we're not going to comment specifically on any specific cards.
I will comment and say that if they don't have a different display connector configuration, they've kind of screwed up a lot.
We do occasionally screw up a lot, but normally on our core function, we're usually pretty good. Our core basic function is to not screw up majorly.
Can a surround G-Sync enabled setup be driven from a single DP port if you have MST or something like that? Yeah,
so right now the module itself, the G-Sync module, does not support an MST pass-through path, right?
Okay.
So today with G-Sync, you're not going to find DP in, DP out, and chain it on a G-Sync module or a G-Sync enabled panel.
Right.
So the answer is no, but that would obviously be a cool feature to have in the future, and I'm sure the guys that are looking at G-Sync would maybe consider such a thing.
Okay. Xander R wanted to know, how does G-Sync behave when the render rate of the GPU is equal or greater than the maximum refresh of the monitor? Is V-Sync being automatically invoked by the driver in real time, similar to adaptive sync, or is the frame rate being limited by some other means, such as a frame rate limiter?
Yeah, so he should have said adaptive V-Sync. So it's similar to adaptive V-Sync.
That's what he wrote. Did I not say that?
Adaptive sync is what you said.
Adaptive V-Sync,
which has now unfortunately been confused by other technologies. So adaptive V-Sync is actually a very good way to think about it because if you don't know, adaptive V-Sync is a technology that we launched a couple years ago where it kind of starts acting like V-Sync on if the frame rate is above the refresh rate. And if the frame rate is below the refresh rate, then it's acting like V-Sync off.
When you say it's acting like V-Sync on, is it just the GPU driver is telling the game engine, or is
it's really in the driver?
It's in the driver?
It's in the driver, and it's basically, the game always thinks V-Sync's off, right?
Okay.
So the game thinks V-Sync's off, but the driver is sort of capping it's back pressuring the game by pacing the rate at which it updates the
Which
screen.
is what would happen if you enabled V-Sync currently, like on any other platform.
Yeah, and the other way to think about it is it's exactly what happens with G-Sync. So as the frame rate gets very, very fast, which means the frame time shrinks, eventually we'll say, okay, we cannot update the screen any faster than it's already going, so that will start creating back pressure back into the graphics pipeline.
Okay. Leonid asks, I have two GTX 780s running an SLI. Will this monitor, the PG278Q, work in G-Sync mode if you connect it to just one of those through DisplayPort?
Absolutely.
Will G-Sync work with SLI, two-way, three-way?
Two-way, three-way.
With one monitor?
One monitor, absolutely. G-Sync is designed to work with SLI, and it works right out of the box. It's a beautiful experience.
Okay. Yeah. This is an interesting question. Maybe harder for me to explain. Larson CC wanted to know, will a standard non-G-Sync surround work if only one monitor has a G-Sync module?
Ooh, so...
He's currently running 60 hertz surround with side monitors. The center monitor is 144 hertz.
Yeah.
The sides are 60.
Right.
Right now.
Right.
It allows him to have 144 hertz on games with one monitor or surround at 60 hertz for adventure games.
Yeah.
Will he still be able to do that if he
G-Sync.
replaces it with a G-Sync monitor?
Okay, so I want to unfortunately say I'm not sure on that one. What I would expect to have happen is you would turn V-Sync off in the game, and the center panel would be G-Sync enabled correctly, and it would work right, and the side panels would be V-Sync off, and they would tear.
Okay.
Right now, I'm not 100% that that's actually working right now, so I'm going to say I don't know.
Okay.
But we'll go take a look at that because that's a good thing. It's a good idea. One thing we do have coming is the ability to do mirrored with G-Sync. So if you're going to be doing two panels, you can have, this is primarily for projection, you can have one panel that is G-Sync that you're playing a game on and another panel that is a mirror of that with V-Sync off.
Okay.
Right, so that's kind of another way to think about it. You want to have that center experience G-synced, but you want to have the side experiences V-synced off, and that would be great.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
not sure that's there now, but I'll take a look at it.
Okay. Gloomfrost asks, the AMD sync has, let's see, only has one-way communication between cards and monitors. Are there any benefits that we have not seen yet, or that you have not been telling us about, in terms of the G-Sync's capability for two-way communication?
I think you're talking about the fact that you can communicate between the computer and the G-Sync module through DP.
Right.
Yeah, we have not described any benefit of that.
You have not described
Any benefit of that. Yeah, but it is kind of cool. And I think there actually are a few third-party apps that right now control, like, setting up the monitor and stuff from the PC.
Right.
Right, so you can already do that using the
You
DP.
can?
Yeah,
Okay.
you definitely can. And it's kind of, yeah, there's a whole host of interesting things that you can do by having a bidirectional communication that we haven't really started talking about.
Haven't really started talking.
Yeah, and we're not really sure exactly. I mean, our goal right now, honestly, let's get G-Sync out there and let's see what people think. And if people love it and it's like well adopted and well, you know, everybody's thinking this is the greatest thing as we think it is, then we'll start iterating and adding to it and making it better and better over time.
Okay.
But right now, let's focus on, you know, make a cake before we frost it.
Will G-Sync be Oculus compatible?
G-Sync and Oculus. So that's an interesting question. It will be, in the sense that Oculus, there's nothing about VR that is fixed refresh rate. As a matter of fact, it's probably better if VR were not fixed refresh rate. But Oculus today is not variable refresh. So Oculus is a fixed refresh rate, and it's using, you know, panels that are basically fixed refreshes. So you know, you don't use the local panel when you're connecting to Oculus. So
They're supposed to.
Yeah,
There's
really nothing. There's really nothing about it working with Oculus. I mean, you don't use a G-Sync
It's
panel.
just they need to have a display in the Rift or whatever that is variable refresh enabled.
Yeah, and if they had such a thing, then we would look at what would it take for us to support Oculus. But today, there is no that thing does not exist. So we really don't have any comment about.
Do you think that would be an advantage for, like, VR in general? The fact, I mean,
Yeah, well, I mean, VR is kind of interesting.
they always force VSync
on, absolutely.
right? Because you don't want to see tearing when it's.
And if you talk to Carmack, he's going to tell you that, you know, 60 frames per second is not enough.
Right.
Right. So their strategy may be, you know what, we just need to get much faster refreshes.
Right. I think the DK2 had 75 hertz refresh.
Yeah, and it may need to go up to get a better experience. But I think that Oculus is on the right track. I think they're going to do some good stuff, but I'm not sure that they're going to choose to make variable refresh one of the things they focus on. They may choose to make super high refresh rate the thing that they focus on. Okay. But it's kind of slightly orthogonal to G-Sync, although NVIDIA, of course, is a close partner of Oculus.
Add that little part in. Somebody was asking about the next version of G-Sync. You're probably not going to talk about it, like what changes you might see.
Yeah, well, I'd love to hear what changes people would like to see. You know, so if there's any feedback, you want to leave some notes below, I will definitely come back and take a look at the posts. And yeah, I'd love to see ideas now that G-Sync's out there. Everybody's seen and heard about it. Let's hear what you'd like different. You know, what would you like to change? Any ideas about what can make it a better experience?
Will the memory on the module need to increase if you have different resolutions of displays?
Yeah, you can think about that module is designed to support up to 4K. Okay. So if we did a very bigger than 4K monitor, we would need a different memory.
Okay. So that is related to the.
Yeah, it's connected.
Okay.
There's a connection.
So there's a question on the cost side of things. This is an anonymous question. Always, when you first showcased G-Sync, the goal was to get cost to $50. I don't know where that information came from. The initial kits were $150. The price since has gone the opposite direction to $199.
Right.
Is there any relief from that, I guess? Or
the inexorable rise in cost.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he's specifically talking about that upgrade kit has gone up in price.
Yeah, I don't think that's
the
true.
case. Well, if it's the case, it would be because they're harder to come by now. Like they were limited run.
I think there's a couple of thoughts in there that are a little tangled together. So let's break them out. The first idea is that $50 was the cost for G-Sync. I'm not sure where that number came from. I don't think $50 is a bad cost target for G-Sync, but it's definitely not the same thing as price. Because really, I think that's what the person may be talking about, is that the price premium for a G-Sync monitor has gone from 0, because there was none, to 50 to 99. Maybe now it's at 199. If you look at the different monitor prices, and that's all controlled by the monitor manufacturers, and that's driven by the market. Right. So if the market right now is small because it's brand new technology and demand is very high, then that tends to let prices float up a little bit. And then as volume scales and demand increases and competition increases, the prices will come down a little bit. Now that's different from cost. The cost is what is the cost of all the stuff that has to go in there to make G-Sync work? And yes, there is a cost adder. There's obviously there's FPGAs, there's a board.
Sure.
But that's also replacing other parts that are cost in a current monitor. So it's replacing the scaler and it's replacing the memory and the thermal. So the net of cost is not obvious. And it's not important because the value that G-Sync is bringing is, for some people, far, far, far more than the small cost adder. And if people can find ways to do it, and of course over time, if we can find ways to bring the cost down, we'll do it. But right now, this is like, we wanted to get to market, so we chose the path that we could control, we could get done, and we could make happen soon.
Right. This question, let's see if I can parse through this. One of the touted benefits of G-Sync is latency, but it's beholden to the panel.
He already sounds skeptical.
He does.
Touted.
But that's okay.
Okay.
Aside from tearing, what benefits does G-Sync variable refresh rate have over a set refresh rate and latency of 120 or 144 hertz, rather than G-Sync on, where latency is tied to the refresh rate and is constantly being changed from frame to frame?
So let me see. I think it's a latency question, right?
It is, but I think what he's trying to get at is, with 120 or 144 hertz, you're ensuring the lowest latency possible when you turn on G-Sync. That advantage goes away if the game dips to the 60 or 30 frames per second. Your latency is a disadvantage of being doubled or tripled to the same monitor at a max set hertz. So is the fact that a monitor is no longer, a 144 hertz monitor like this would always refresh 144 hertz,
right,
regardless of what your frame rate is.
Right.
When you have G-Sync and you're running at, say, 30 frames per second, now the monitor, or 40, right? The monitor's actually only refreshing at 40.
Right.
Is there a latency disadvantage because now that monitor's only refreshing at 40 instead of 144? Okay,
so let's break that down about what's happening first of all. So during a refresh, what happens on a monitor is it draws from the top to the bottom. And at 144 hertz, I guess that's running at what, like around 8 milliseconds. So in 8 milliseconds, literally, it starts at millisecond 0 here, and by millisecond 4, it's halfway done, and by 8, it's all the way at the bottom, and then it recycles. So your monitor is actually drawing that whole time. Now, what G-Sync does is says, if I'm going to refresh, or if I'm only getting frames, it's, let's say 30 frames per second, that's 16 milliseconds. So you could do it two ways. You could start at the top at time 0 and draw all the way to the bottom and do it over 16 milliseconds. That way it would be really, really slow. So instead of doing that, what we actually do is we draw it as fast as we can, which is 8 milliseconds, the max refresh rate of the monitor.
Okay.
Right, so we're going to draw from the top to the bottom as fast as we can, and then we're just going to wait. The monitor's just going to keep that picture on there. And then when the next frame's done, we're going to start at the top, draw to the bottom in 8 milliseconds, right? So the fast refresh rate does not change.
So when G-Sync is enabled and you're running at 40 frames per second, it is still drawing at an 8 millisecond or so draw time.
Right, from the top to the bottom, limited by the panel. Right, so the key thing with G-Sync is, even when the frame rate drops, you're going to get the image on the screen as fast as possible. Right, that means that if you think about it, I guess we could go back to that little picture you had. So this is a great time to show.
Hey, Alan's picture.
Hey, Alan. How are you doing? Here's a great. Well, let's do this one. This one. Okay. So what happens? And let's imagine that these are spread out. So I'm drawing the frame, and as soon as I finish drawing the frame, I'm going to start scanning it onto the screen. And I'm going to start at the top pixel, and I'm going to scan across. This is the middle pixel, and eventually I'm going to get to the bottom pixel. So G-Sync says, as soon as I can draw and as soon as I can scan, you're going to see the update, right? Now, if you think about a picture with G-Sync off and V-Sync on, it's going to look more like this, right here. Okay, so as soon as I draw and as soon as I scan, no matter where I am, I'll start scanning in the middle. Now, if you got lucky and the change was right
like
there
here.
on the bottom half. Oh yeah, if you got lucky here and the change in the screen was at the top half, then it's going to be as fast as G-Sync, right? That's VSync off is as fast as G-Sync. If you get unlucky and the change is actually here in this example, you're going to draw, but you're going to draw the bottom half of the screen and you're not going to see the change. Right? And then you're going to have to wait over here to see the change on the next scan out.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it turns out to be a wash. G-Sync is approximately the same because sometimes, you would have gotten lucky. Sometimes you wouldn't have gotten lucky with VSync off.
Right.
With G-Sync, you're always going to start from the top, but sometimes the change is not going to be to the bottom, so it's going to take a long time to see it.
Okay.
Right. So it always G-Sync latency is approximately equal to VSync off when frame rates are low, and when frame rates are high, it's approximately equal to VSync on. Right. When frame rates reach the refresh rate of the monitor.
Okay.
Cool.
Take that back to
take
the
this
home.
down.
Yeah, thank you. Will G-Sync ever make its way to laptops or NVIDIA-powered Android devices like the one we're looking at here?
Excellent question. I think that G-Sync technology is going to make its way to a lot of different platforms, from mobile to tablet to, well, obviously mobile is tablet, but mobile meaning tablet, gaming, but also notebook. It's just perfect for notebooks. Now, we're not making any announcements about NVIDIA technology in notebooks or tablets, but it's a natural thing for us to be looking at.
Okay. All right. And another little question here from Larson CC, unrelated to G-Sync directly. Why is it so ridiculous to switch from normal mode to surround? Shouldn't this be a hotkey by now?
Wow. It is unfortunate. That's a great question. He's absolutely right.
Yeah.
It should be. And even more.
Like set up profiles and just boom,
well,
boom,
not
boom.
even that. I think it should be based on the game resolution, right? So what should happen is you should have a collection of resolutions that if you ever activate, you go into surround mode. And if you don't activate that resolution, you're back into normal desktop mode.
Yeah.
So there's work to be done to improve the experience. Right now, it's sort of an all or nothing because partly the way Windows works and partly the way our driver works, but it's no excuse. It's a valid question. It's something that we can work on.
All right. Since we're talking about that, we'll ask this one as well. What are NVIDIA's plans to support monitor setups that are outside current capabilities? For example, eliminating concerns with sync polarity or supporting monitors running different resolutions or PLP setups?
Yes, I think that's a great idea, and we're definitely looking at it.
Okay. There you go. Does G-Sync work with 3D vision? Do the glasses vary their shutter speed, or is it one or the other?
A or B, because the shutters are actually hard to flip randomly, if you can imagine.
You can't just change their sync rate.
No, it's almost like there's a little vibration inside the glasses, and so that's really science that's not figured out yet about how to make the shutter rate random or without, and then keep it in sync with the panel. That's really, really hard.
Aaron wants to know if G-Sync helps with micro-stuttering in SLI.
Yes, it does.
How?
So micro-stuttering comes from a lot of different places, but a lot of it is caused by V-syncing. So if you think about V-Sync being on, the reason people have V-Sync on is to avoid tearing.
Right.
So with G-Sync, you can have V-Sync off and still not tear, so you don't get the micro-stuttering caused by V-Sync. Now, if you're still getting micro-stuttering in a game, and sometimes you will, sometimes G-Sync's helping that, sometimes it's not, but it's definitely an area that's got more work to be done.
I have had an instance of that occurring while testing on this G-Sync monitor. I wrote about it in the story about BioShock Infinite. It was a game that NVIDIA has quite a bit of micro-stuttering actually in the game, but on the G-Sync monitor, a lot of that went away.
Yes.
And it's not directly related to like performance.
Right.
Like the frame rates are almost
About the
identical.
same, yeah.
But there's something else about how the pushback into the engine.
It's the way that the engine is being paced by V-Sync.
Right.
Can sometimes in an engine cause sort of bad things to happen. G-Sync avoids that by not backing up the pipeline unless you hit the refresh rate of the monitor. So it's actually it's a little easier for a game to keep an even cadence. But on a separate note, there's still more work to be done there, and we're definitely investing in improving the sort of the visual cadence of frames.
Okay. How is NVIDIA working with companies like Blizzard, whose games like Diablo 3 have issues with G-Sync?
How are we working with Blizzard? Well, the first way to start with is we do have a huge team of developer tech team and a DevRel team that is constantly working with developers to make G-Sync great. One of the things we've done is we've seeded all of the major developers with G-Sync monitors. So the first step in getting G-Sync behavior better in a game is to give them a panel that they can play with and test. And the best news about that is once you give a panel to a monitor to a dev guy, they go nuts because it looks great and it makes their game look great. I remember when I did it with Johan on BF3, he was like, oh no, BF4, he was just blown away, right? So those guys having the panel is the most important step. And we've already done that. We're doing that now with the ASUS monitor. And our guys are constantly talking with them, how can we help you make this better? We're looking at it. We have our dev tech guys looking at it. And all that, by the way, is not just NVIDIA. It's making the game better for everybody because we're eliminating other sources of stutter. What we found is with G-Sync, the image is now so good that all the other stuff that you're not used to seeing is more important. Because the image used to be so corrupted by tearing and stutter that you didn't see the fact that, well, now, honestly, and this is for the guys watching, if you're playing on G-Sync, get a high refresh rate mouse. Right, the high polling rate mouse, and download the driver and run it at 1,000 hertz. Because if you think about it now, when you're swinging your mouse around, the polling interval of that mouse, if it's set to 100 milliseconds or 10 milliseconds, is just not fast enough to keep up with the animation that you're seeing on the screen. So you really do need to get the mouse driver, update the polling rate. It's going to look a lot better.
Don't just use the default driver when you plug it in.
No,
I'm pretty guilty of that.
Yeah, don't do it. You'll see. I mean, we ought to, when we get done and play it. It's dramatic. It really is.
Interesting. All right. What's the compatibility issue with ULMB, which is a feature of this the monitor, not this monitor, but those monitors. The ultra low motion blur and G-Sync. How come you can't run those at the same time?
Well, again, it's another one of those science projects where ULMB is all based on pulsing the backlight, right? So the way it works is we draw an image and then we pulse the backlight, and then draw an image and pulse the backlight. And that pulsing of the backlight needs to basically happen at a fixed cadence. Otherwise, it'll really cause all kinds of funky ghosting effects, right?
Because of the variance of the pulsing?
Well, yeah,
because you'd see ghosting and sometimes you wouldn't.
Well,
and that would...
well, if you think about it, you're going to draw the frame and then pulse. And so how long do I have to pulse? Well, you want to pulse so that the next time you draw and pulse, you get a set brightness, right? A clean brightness. So if the frame rate is varying, you don't really know how long to pulse the frame. It's a little bit. It's a little bit complex about how long do I keep the light on? When do I know the next frame's going to show up? Right, because I don't know when the next frame's showing up. I only know when the current frame is, and I know when the last frame is.
Right.
So it's a little bit tough. It's possible, I think, and there's some science that needs to be applied to make it work, but it's not a simple problem.
Once DisplayPort 1.3 monitors start to come out, will NVIDIA continue to invest in G-Sync and custom scalar hardware, or will it eventually be deprecated with the rise of, say, like the VISA-based standards? Yeah,
so NVIDIA is all for standards. We're obviously part of VISA, and we're part of most major standards organizations, from memory to display to software, right? So we love standards. But it is true that not all standards work. And in the case of this standard, what we're talking about is adaptive sync, which I think I'm going to refer to as DP 1.2A optional extensions.
Yes.
Okay, now, I don't know why that's not DP 1.2B, but it's not. And so our stance on that spec right now is that we don't support that. We have no plans to support that, and we don't need it because obviously we already have G-Sync running on DP 1.2A with no optional extended standards, right?
Right.
Now, when DP 1.3A finally comes out, it is very unlikely that twist is going to become mandatory. And if it does become mandatory, we would have a big question about that. So just because DP 1.3 is coming does not mean that that particular spec becomes a mandatory part of the spec, because if it did, that would change the entire scalar industry, right? You could not, you cannot force that kind of change on the industry. It has to become a phased-in thing and based on monitor adoption.
So you think they would make it a requirement, not because of anything NVIDIA is doing, but because of everything that the scalar vendors
the entire ecosystem would go, what? Right? Because that would suddenly say that all of your scalars that are not supporting that optional extension are no longer DP compliant. Right. That makes no sense, right? And not only that, we are, if our GPUs didn't do it, we would not want our GPUs nobody would want our GPUs to not be DP 1.3 compliant. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So it's a complex question. It is not at all clear, just to be clear, what our stance is. We're not publicly saying we're going to support or not support. The fact is, right now, today, we don't support 1.2A optional extended standard or whatever. And our plans for DP 1.3 are unknown, as is that spec. Okay. We had several questions floating around this, like what does NVIDIA do for like the 23.976 mode for watching videos? Does G-Sync work with this? Can it change anything? Yeah, G-Sync, so the question is an excellent question, and it gets to the fundamental nature of G-Sync being variable, right? Right. And a movie obviously is not captured typically at 60 hertz. It's typically captured at 24 hertz
24,
and maybe 48.
Yeah.
So it'd be better if you played it back at that instead of doing this 3-2 pull down stuff, right? So I am not sure if there's a movie player out there now that does this, but you could go full screen on a movie player and play that at, refresh that frame rate at the rate of the content. And if that happened, then you would see the G-Sync would work correctly, and
maybe NVIDIA should make a video player.
Maybe we should do a video player.
Does that.
Maybe video players should do that. I honestly don't know. I don't know the answer right now, but I'm going to go check out. That's a great point, and it's the next thing that you can imagine G-Sync and style technology is doing really good at, and that's not just true for desktop. It's also true for mobile form factors.
All right, let's see. Wow, there's a lot of questions here. Let's find some good ones. How does G-Sync handle frames when it drops below 30 frames per second?
Excellent question. So obviously, this is when your frame rate is below the minimum refresh rate of the panel. Let's start off by saying...
What is the minimum refresh rate of the panel?
The minimum refresh rate of the panel is the frequency at which, if it goes lower, it'll start to flicker. Right, so if you think about, and that differs by panel to panel. Some panels hold an image longer than others. Other panels will start to degrade, and the image quality will fade. So what happens if the frame rate goes too low? The panel will start
another pulse,
without another refresh, right?
Okay.
So this is all a question about what do panels do.
Right.
It's not really a question about G-Sync. G-Sync will go to the lowest level that the panel supports, and as a matter of fact, if a panel went to 1 or 2 or 5, we would go there, right? It's not G-Sync, it's the panel. Now
so you kind of are basically doing, because it is something that is enabled driver side on a per monitor basis, you have to kind of like do research and find out, okay, are you testing this, or you're not just trusting the vendor's specifications?
Every G-Sync panel today comes to NVIDIA to get certified. Right. And during that process, what we're doing is tuning it and giving feedback and figuring out all the right parameters that make this particular monitor look beautiful. Right. G-Sync is not like a fire and forget strategy. We don't put out a spec and hope that the scaler industry adopts it and then hope that monitor manufacturers do something good with it. Our strategy is we're inventing the technology, we're building the core module, and we're selling it as a device to monitor manufacturers, and then those guys want to partner with us, right? They ship the monitors back, and we do a bunch of testing. Garrett and his team do great work, and at the end of the day, you get an experience that's just breathtaking, right? It's just awesome. So, yeah, we're definitely testing every one of these, and as we see monitors that need tweaking, we tweak them up.
So what happens then if your frame rate dips under that minimum refresh?
Then we're going to refresh it out of the local buffer. So if you think about it,
you're not waiting for the GPU's not sending another frame.
No,
it's part of that use of that buffer.
Part of that buffer. Yeah.
Okay.
That's just more efficient than sending it back.
Are there any instances where that would cause latency because like another frame maybe starts to show up while you are now drawing the frame that is in the buffer?
Absolutely. So there is a pacing that now has to occur because once you start drawing out of the refresh,
you have to finish. Otherwise you get tearing.
Right. Yeah. So you're either going to get tearing or you're going to just be confused, right? So that whole redraw process paces back into the driver to prevent a new frame from going away before it gets redrawn. So that frame that just finished while we were doing the redraw kind of sits in the GPU, which does add latency, and then we'll redraw it once that 8 milliseconds is over and our redraw finishes.
So that's another benefit then of having a high refresh rate G-Sync monitor is because that time is
only
lessened.
Yeah, exactly. So the
as
worst case
with a 60 hertz monitor where it would be 16.
16, right. So the way to think about it is, let's say you get super unlikely and a frame is finished just after the 33 millisecond window that would have required a frame, and it wasn't there. So now we're in that moment where the panel goes, I need to redraw based on my decay of the image. So it starts its redraw, but then that render just completes as soon as that redraw starts. Now what's going to happen is the driver says, okay, the panel's redrawing, so I'm going to hold on to this frame, and as soon as the panel's done, I will send that rendered frame out, which will be 8 milliseconds later. Right? Okay. So that's the worst case.
Okay. Okay.
But remember, you're at a very low frame rate at that point, and I don't think people are going to be feeling that 8 millisecond lag. They're going to be feeling the low frame rate.
So we're starting to get some of the questions that were put into the chat. Since FreeSync is going to be license free, according to AMD's frequently asked questions, how long will G-Sync be dominant variable refresh technology, or is this why G-Sync needs to be better?
Let's see. Again, I'm not sure what's going to happen with adaptive sync, right?
Okay.
I'm not sure what's going to happen, and it's anybody's guess. I can tell you that we're we're embracing G-Sync, and it's the difference between, we're going to invest in it and we're going to develop the modules, we're going to make it better and better and better, and you have the power of that NVIDIA investment that's going to do that, versus an alternative. And if the alternative turns out to be just as good or better, then obviously we'll change our strategy.
Okay, there was one here. Does Tom himself have an opinion on FreeSync? And I think maybe you probably won't.
I have no opinion about FreeSync other than to say that it is what it is.
So I'm going to end on this question, and if we have any more really good ones at the end, after we look at the tablet thing. This one is, are there any technical reasons why you can't have G-Sync on an IPS panel or maybe even a projector?
So those are two different questions. IPS, the answer is no. There's no reason why you can't have G-Sync. So I would put that in the positive and say G-Sync can work on IPS. Okay. It's just a decision of the monitor manufacturers, and they're obviously making their own decisions for their own business reasons based on what they think the market wants. So IPS, definitely yes. Projectors are a little more complicated because a lot of projectors use a color wheel. So if you got a color wheel, that technology does not work with a variable refresh rate because the wheel has momentum.
The wheel is constant,
right? And the wheel is spinning at 60 hertz, and you're flashing lights through it. So that technology doesn't work. But there are other projector technologies that are more LCD oriented, and they could work, right? So there are no projectors that I've seen that are doing variable refresh rate or G-Sync or anything, but clearly we'd love for that to happen, and we're ready and happy to work with any projector companies that are investing in this area. But right now, kind of the spinning wheel approach won't work. The LCD approach could work, and IPS definitely yes.
Okay, interesting. All right. Let's change gears for a minute here.
All right.
And let's spend a little bit of time on this device. You brought this with you. You were super excited about it.
I am super excited about it.
This is, you have a Shield tablet here.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't had a Shield tablet here.
Wow. There it is. Can you see that? There you go. Shield tablet.
Yeah, where you're mirroring out to the TV here.
Yep.
If you're wondering why, if you bring up that screen now, the black bars are kind of on the side here, it's because the display of the TV here is 19 by 10, and the display on the tablet is 19 by 12. So there's a little bit of a difference there. It's not an inherent thing. If you don't do mirror mode and you just do TV mode, console mode,
you can do full.
It's full screen.
Full screen.
So.
It'll run up to 4K as well, right? So if you have a 4K, you can plug it in and get a great 4K movie.
So this is a Tegra K1 powered tablet.
It is.
That has 192 Kepler cores in it. It's got 4+1 A15 CPU design in there.
Very cool.
I really liked the tablet.
I saw your review. It's like one of those tablets that if you're a gamer, it's hard to argue that this is not for you, right?
Right, and it's priced in a way. The tablet in itself is priced in a way that it's very competitive in that market, considering hardware-wise. You're paying a little bit more for like the cover and the controller and everything. Right. But it's a totally unique design as well, which I like, and I think it's an interesting stance to take, where there are a million tablets out there that range from $49. I have a $49 tablet.
You have a $49 tablet?
It's not a great tablet, but it is $49. Right?
Alan, do you have one of those?
No, it's over there.
Yeah, we don't want to bring it out right now.
Wow.
And then you can go all the way up to $699 or whatever you want to get, right?
Yeah.
So this falls in the middle of that pack. But it has some cool features as well.
It does. Well, it's one thing I like the most is these front-facing speakers. I don't know if you can see them, but the speakers on the thing are right on the front, and they sound. Yeah. I mean, I've got a Bose kind of player thingy, and these sound really good. I mean, they are totally good for what you're around the house. You put it out on your deck in the bathroom. It's all great. You can play movies and games, and you don't have to wear headphones. So
front-facing speakers on a tablet just makes sense.
I'm surprised that everybody doesn't do front-facing.
It's because it creates a less clean look on the front for sure.
Does it have to be thicker? I don't think so.
And it has to be wider.
A little,
it has to be longer.
A little wider,
right? Because you have to go outside the screen bezel and everything.
Well, it just seems like it's a win in the overall experience. I don't know.
Especially if you're looking at a tablet for gaming and multimedia, versus kind of content creation or something like that.
But another part of this whole thing is this controller, right? So this is the Shield controller that allows us to control the tablet directly from this guy. So if I can just, I can just move around using normal controller stuff. And so all of the normal, kind of desktop experiences, you can go look at your games and basically, okay, Google. There you go. Now we're speaking now. I'm going to say, Google, Franco never speaks to me.
Google a Franco. I don't know.
Let's not do that. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, hit back.
Okay,
hit back.
Back. All right, home.
Yeah.
Home. There we go. So this is really cool, and obviously this is all about gaming, right? This is a normal. It's almost like the Shield Portable, which is what our old device is called now, Shield Portable. This is that controller taken and now made mobile, and it's got a little port here that you can plug in headset. So that's what we've got going on here.
We
all the
actually have
sounds
the audio
coming there,
kind of
right?
plugged in through that.
So the audio is not coming out of the tablet. The audio is actually coming out of the controller.
And this is for if you do game on it, you can hook up a headset there.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I think to me the most interesting use case is you put it in console mode. It's sitting up there next to your TV,
Yes.
and you've got the mini HDMI. You don't have to go to micro HDMI. It's mini HDMI. Outputs to the TV. I had it hooked up at my house with I was playing Portal, playing Half-Life 2. Audio coming out through the AV receiver. It was all great. But if you need to do it in a silent way, or you want to do voice chat in some particular game, then you can hook it up through.
Yeah, it is super awesome.
It works very similar to like how Xbox and PlayStation do it today,
you
right?
would
Your
think of
audio and your both bidirectional audio is kind of going through that.
Yeah,
through
but
the Wi-Fi direct connection.
Absolutely, very cool. And I love the fact that there's a little mic here that you can, if you're doing Skype or if you're doing say any kind of Google Now stuff, you can do it right through the controller, which just makes sense. It's very cool. So what I pulled up here, let me go back to the desktop. So from the desktop, you can just hit this Shield button, and what it'll do is pull up an app that we call Shield Up. Whoa. Let's get out of there. Okay, so what we're looking at is an interface that we built that runs on top of Android. It's not a replacement for the store. It's not a replacement for anything. This is just something that you might like, because what it does is it makes it very easy for you to discover games that are built for this device. So these are a whole bunch of games, and if you just kind of say, click on a game, let's say Shine Runner, it takes you to Google Play, and now this is just showing you, what information we have it, and if you want to buy it, you just go get it now, and you go right to Google Play.
Right.
So it's a nice way for you to discover games that are optimized for playing on the.
And I know, in our review, I talked about it a lot. That there are some very specific Tegra K1 optimized games that are really impressive, and I'm still waiting on some War Thunder to come out.
That could be good.
Very impressive. It's playable on the PS4. I played on the PS4.
That's very good. So here's a bunch of games we have on this device. These are Android games. I thought we would play one together. Now, Ryan, can you verify that you're connected?
I am.
You are indeed connected? Okay, so what do you think? We'll do Trine?
Okay.
We're not very good at it.
We're not a very good team.
We're not good, and we can't work together. This has been a problem for Ryan and I
so
for
you should get audio out of this, Alan.
About 9 years.
Well, so yeah.
We've never actually done this before. So we're going to now launch Trine 2, and it's a really great game. It's running natively on the tablet. So you can imagine you and a buddy have 2 controllers, which are sold separately, so that should be easy to do. You can both connect up your headsets, and you can be listening, which I wish I had done. I could listen to the game. And then you can play co-op. Oh, you're turning down the audio.
No, I did that. I'm sorry.
I'm going to turn it up for you.
Yeah, turn that volume back
there
up.
You go.
Thanks.
Is that good audio?
Just go all the way.
Go all the way
up. Hill handle on that stuff.
Okay.
Actually, I think we had this game loaded before.
Oh, so it's loading up now.
Yeah.
Okay. Give it a minute.
No, do the. What do we do here? How do you bring up the?
Bring up the controller, the Explorer thing. What do you want to do?
Swipe it, restart it.
Swipe it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. You
so
know
let's come here. Yeah, I get it.
Because we had that running right before.
Yeah. So that would be here, and here, and then we're gonna restart it. Oops.
Almost.
Okay.
There you go. Now I just restart. It'll be fine. Because we had the demo running before.
Okay.
I think we have some Tegra-based questions here.
Well, we'll see if I can answer any of the Tegra-based questions. This is going to be a challenge.
So when can we expect NVIDIA Shield PC streaming to support multiple controllers?
Ooh, that is a feature that we've had requested multiple times. We don't have any announcement on that. I think it's a great feature. I think the Shield team is looking at it, but we don't have anything to say about it.
You sure?
Yeah.
Really?
Pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
a great idea, right? Because the idea is when you have multiplayer games that you're doing PC streaming, having 2 of these controllers actually would be really awesome to use for that. So
it would be very awesome.
I think this is trying to find the account that I logged into before.
Do you think this is trying to connect online?
Yeah.
And now whoever is back
I don't know.
So we're going to kill this one again. We're not going to do it. Waiting. Okay. We're killing it, and then we're going to go to plan B.
You're not going to try to race, are you?
I think we're going to try to race.
Okay.
So we're going to do which one? Beach buggy?
I think you had Asphalt 8.
All right, here we go.
So the Android gaming market is an interesting beast, right? It needs some love. It needs some development love, right?
Yes, it does.
And I think if you look at some of the stuff that you guys did by bringing Portal 1 and by bringing Half-Life 2 out there, show that specifically.
You can think of us as being, you know, I got to get through this thing. It kind of wants me to upgrade, but I really don't want to upgrade. I just want to go.
Just race me.
There we go. Car zone 0.
No,
packs.
you're just looking now.
How do I get up to like play? Back?
Yep.
Okay.
Go back again.
Back. Okay.
Yeah, you got to go to a place where you own cars, so go back again. You didn't invest any money. This is the car that you were racing in before.
Well, it should work, right? Oh,
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what? They make it. There it is. Go over
It's
here.
this arrow right here.
Okay.
No?
No, did that do it?
I don't know.
You just click on it.
It does look cool though.
We're viewing it. Can't I just play the damn thing? Hold on. Car packs, collections, buy now. Let's just buy it. See what happens.
You're not gonna have any.
New car.
Ooh.
All right, I got the
nice.
NVIDIA car. Here we go. Now I want to play it.
Car paint upgrade.
Back.
Keep going back.
Back. Cool.
Play.
Play.
There it is.
NVIDIA. Yeah, we're in.
There you go.
We're in.
There you go.
What?
Next.
Next. Okay.
That button wasn't there before.
Next.
Start race.
Oh, Jesus. That was so many opportunities to buy stuff, Ryan. And I think you're talking about the fact that the games in Android world are still growing. They're learning.
Things like that,
Things like that.
right?
And we're going to play this with the controller.
PC gamers don't handle well with that.
No, but you know what?
But if it plays well, this one does. It looks
does.
okay.
It's very good. Okay, here we go.
All right, we've
See how
got.
I do. Okay, I'm now going. All right.
You'll probably do better than I did with the keyboard. on
Yeah.
the,
So do you guys have sound? All right, sweet. So the bet is if I don't lose, that Ryan is going to give something away. Is that right?
I don't think so. I've got 3 G-Sync monitors behind me.
Oh no, those are coming home with me, baby.
Are there any plans? Let's see, this question came from Nameless Ted. Is there any plans for NVIDIA to release a set-top box powered by Tegra?
Ooh,
This kind of acts like one in console mode.
It is very similar to one, right? So you could actually say we've already released something that's like a set-top box, only it's better because you can move it around. You know, where we're at right now with Shield is we're building out a platform, right? And we're building out technologies that make gaming great on Android. And as Android gets better and better and better, you can obviously think through things like, you know, I guess Google did Google TV, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
And it's just a whole new world of devices that is coming. And obviously NVIDIA is going to be right in the middle of that. It's great news.
Bug Smasher wants to know, can we do triple display with Tegra K1 power devices?
You know, I don't think that is right
Maybe
now
three of
their
them up
focus.
together?
Yeah, there you go.
No?
So that's gaming. It's really fun. It's really easy, and it just works.
It has other, you know, you were drawing on it earlier.
let's get the tablet out.
It's useful for that.
So
It was
you
interesting.
pull
For
out
these
the little
types of
tablet?
streams, we would almost always have a laptop hooked up to show
This
websites
makes it way
or do
easier,
something
right?
we
Because
did,
now
and
you
it
can
kinda just worked.
yeah, and then here you go. We're just drawing on it, and it's a tablet. You know, it's a pen that comes with the tablet, and it's pressure sensitive. So if you push harder, you get black, and if you push lighter, you get a little thin line. But it also has a bunch of different modes. We can do. Let's see. If I go here, I think. Don't want to save that, and then I can change the mode from pastel, and I can go to oil as an example, and we're now painting with oil. So the cool thing about this tablet is as you're painting with oil, you know, you can do some nice colors. I'm no artist, so I'm just going to do, you know, kind of like a happy face, an oil painting, and a little ear, a little clown. So it's a scary clown, okay? But the cool thing is it's graphics accelerated scary clown. So if we just zoom in a little bit, now we're changing the light area. So if you watch that image, you see how it's changing as I rotate the light around? It's actually three-dimensional oil. And you can show that by cutting into it a little bit. You can kind of scrape it down. Let me get the pen clean. Okay. Scraping it down. And then if I zoom in a little bit, let's go ahead and zoom in. You can see as I change the light now, the light is kind of coming around, changing. Let's change the light over here. It's kind of cool. You know,
Yeah.
and then it even works with watercolor. So if I change it to a watercolor, let me get back over here. Hello, there we go. And now instead of oil, I'm going to do watercolor. And what's cool about the watercolor, you know, is if you kind of just paint watercolor, let's get a big thick brush. Then if you zoom in on it, you can see the water's actually rolling down the table, and it responds to the brush.
Does it?
Yeah, so make it really wet. Roll it down. Oops.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So this comes with it, and you get the entire tablet experience, right? It's very cool. Okay. What else about the tablet? Let's see. We got, of course, you can game stream, right? So let me show you that one more time. We're not going to be able to game stream because we don't have it hooked up, but I can show you what it does.
Yeah, we didn't.
You go into the Shield Hub, and this is all your media apps. So obviously, it's great for playing movies. You can play all your entertainment stuff. And these are games that we just had connected. So in this situation, we would normally play Crisis, BioShock, Battlefield, whatever.
Got a lot of
and
games on there.
it streams from the PC to this device, and this device connects through HDMI to the TV, and you play with the controller.
It actually works
cool.
really well. That is so. I played Wolfenstein.
Oh, really?
Wolfenstein
How was
New
it?
Order through that onto my TV with the controller. It actually played really well.
really
I think I
good.
played for like 3 hours. And
Really?
It was a really good experience.
Did Kelly get to try it?
No, she was asleep.
Oh.
I get to use the TV downstairs when she's asleep. So
I see.
That happens.
All right. Well, there you go.
You want me to do a couple more questions?
Sure,
and
sure.
then,
Let's see what they have.
So we got lots of questions about, so when's GTX 800 series coming out?
Excellent question. I choose to remain employed by NVIDIA today, so I am therefore going to decline to comment on future GPUs.
Not even a little?
Not even a little.
How about that display connection thing?
I've already said that we're very excited about more display connectors, and we're looking at it for future stuff.
H.265 acceleration, encoding, decoding, any of that from?
All important stuff. All important stuff.
See, I knew some of these questions were gonna.
Yeah, I'd
when
like
I asked
to,
for, like,
I'd
the
like to
general
ask
purpose
more.
questions.
If you're asking like the general, what are we doing? What's our future? That, we're pretty cagey on that. We're just pretty cagey on that stuff.
Is there a point where DX12 will be an issue with cards that are further back in the product stack, like the 560 or 660?
Yeah, that's a fair question. So I think when I think about DX12, it's going to become a necessary feature across the whole stack over time, just like DX10 did. When DX10 came out, we first launched it on G80, and then over time, very quickly, it kind of became across the entire stack. Then same thing happened with DX11. Eventually, the same thing's going to happen with DX12, where it's going to start at the high end and then migrate down through the whole stack. And that'll happen, relatively quickly.
All right. Let's see if we had any more questions added under that G-Sync thing, because there were a lot of G-Syncs there. Will G-Sync be able to go below 8 milliseconds?
Well, again, that's
technically it does.
Yeah,
144.
that is a panel question.
Yeah.
So I like to differentiate between G-Sync, the technology, and the panel. So there's nothing about G-Sync that has any number associated with it, right? It's kind of like the core module works across a broad range of frequencies, and depending on the panel that it connects to, it's going to be limited to the operational range of the panel.
Okay.
So right now, the fastest panels are around 144 megahertz, which brings you down to that 8-something millisecond refresh rate.
All right. I think we got one last question we're going to end on, and this is the most important one.
Okay.
All right. I've been planning for this.
Have you had this in your mind?
No, this was submitted by in the comments section on the post.
Okay.
By Balamute,
Thanks, Balamu.
who wants to know what is easier for a GTX Titan to render: 100 duck-sized horses with their hair modeled with tools from NVIDIA GameWorks, or one horse-sized duck with its feathers modeled by TressFX.
Wow. So it's 100
It's 100 duck-sized horses.
Yes.
Or one horse-sized duck.
I wish Tony Tomasi were here. He would know that answer like that.
He would.
But I don't think there's a hard answer to that. I think it's a great question. It's just hard for me to comment on which would be faster. But I do believe, if I had to guess, that the GameWorks-based SDK would be far superior, and that therefore the acceleration would be far surpassing what you'd see with the spiky duck hair on the horse.
People in the chat seem to think one horse-sized duck is...
That would win?
They think that, yeah.
Well, I don't know. It kind of depends on
You
how
can duplicate,
Yeah.
you can maybe use instancing.
Yeah, you would use
instead
instancy, right?
For 100 duck-sized horses.
Yeah, I think you would just instance it, and it's not at all clear that the one is better. But you know what? I think the question is more trying to figure out: does one render object make it easier, or are you polygon like triangle limited?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
good question.
It's an interesting philosophical debate.
You know what I might do is I might just go run that test
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, see what happens.
Get us a report
Yeah,
back.
I might come back next time and show you the two.
So as we finish out the stream here,
Okay.
Do you have any kind of
Let me give you a
little
summary.
bits?
Last little bits. I cannot tell you how excited I am about the new ASUS monitor. I think it's a great first example of what you can do with G-Sync, and they've done a great job by making the bezels small, and they built just a fantastic monitor that's, just great in itself. So good job to ASUS, and I'm very excited about it. I'm also excited about some stuff I've seen from AOC and Philips and
Acer.
Acer for sure. Acer, I think, has made an announcement.
They did.
What'd they say?
They have announced a 4K G-Sync monitor.
And did they give a date on any of that?
They did not. We don't have a date on it. I think it's going to be, this is again my assumption, I think it's going to be pretty soon.
Yeah.
And I think internally it will be a very interesting debate between all the people that work here as we, there's going to be a new 1080p, like a custom built, like a new 1080p G-Sync.
Yep.
We'll have this 25x14 ROG Swift, and then we'll have this Acer 4K G-Sync. And we set all of them next to each other, and we kind of...
Which do you like?
Pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
Because the 4K is going to be a 60 hertz panel.
Yeah.
We've got 144 at 25x14,
Right.
and then I'm assuming the 1080p will probably be 120 or 144.
I would expect it to be.
As well.
Yeah.
And then what's the cost difference? What's the experience difference? We talked about earlier, the sweet spot for G-Sync is really when your games are in that 40 to 60
65,
range.
yeah.
And with a 4K resolution, you're more likely to be
there.
in the 40 to 60 range
Very true.
with your hardware, regardless of what it happens to
Absolutely,
be.
very true.
So I think it'll be interesting. I think the comparison to look at for this will be experience of 25x14 G-Sync, 144 hertz, versus not G-Sync, 25x14,
Yeah.
144.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I'm curious how you feel about it.
G-Sync 4K 60 hertz, or G-Sync 4K, or 4K 60 hertz, like fixed.
Oh, I think that one's
right.
going to be easy.
And that one's going to be easy.
Yeah.
But
The hard one is the 3K, say 25x14 at 144 versus 4K at 60, both with G-Sync, which is better.
right, and
That's not going to be obvious.
we'll have to see what the cost differences
yeah.
are, and you
I
only need one. You get that high resolution with one display port.
Yeah.
Essentially.
It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah. So let's take one more look. We're still running over here at our.
And it still looks amazing. I've been trying not to look at this as it's been doing all. I'm like, look at the rocket. It goes all the way across the screen. It's really
run
cool.
23 of 50, so we made it halfway through our.
That's exciting.
This is like a good stability test.
Yeah,
for
well,
our
it's pretty
platform
stable.
as
And
well.
thanks to Fabio and the Surround team. They've done a great job on G-Sync Surround. Z-Wave's done a great job with SLI, working really well. So thanks to all those guys. And a shout out to Tiru, who's also doing a great job back home.
All right, are you done?
I am.
Did you finish?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
For everybody who's watching, I thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you learned a lot with this. We kind of went over a bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of questions. And of course, we encourage you to go to PCPro.com and you can see the review of the ASUS ROG Swift PG278Q monitor. You will also see coming up very shortly kind of experiences write-up of the surround configuration. And then I hope very soon you will see reviews of the 4K 1080p and kind of give you, be able to give you a really well-rounded
I'd like to see the bake-off
viewpoint of what is, we know we like G-Sync, what is the best experience with G-Sync.
That's exciting.
And I think, for people that have lower-end hardware, 1080p is going to be the spot you need to go with. People who are willing to invest a lot of money in GPUs and push 4K, will you be willing to invest whatever that price happens to be in a new panel?
It's going to be exciting.
I'm really interested to do it. Make sure you pay attention to PCPro.com, guys. There's going to be a super busy August and September, just in general. We will have more live streams going as well throughout the next 60 days or so.
Busy time.
A lot of this
Busy
stuff.
time.
It's good time to be a PC enthusiast.
There's a lot of great titles coming.
There's a lot of new games coming out this year. At the end of this year and early 2015, it's going to be exciting, right? As
Do you have a game you're looking forward to? Like you really?
I'm still really waiting on Star Citizen, but
I love it too.
I have no idea when it will actually ever.
Did you kick in?
Be released? I did. I haven't done the stupid amounts of money that other people have done, but it is
all right.
in there.
Great job.
So,
good job.
Thank you guys, and make sure you check the live schedule. You can sign up. One last plug here. If you go to pcpro.com/subscribe, you can sign up for our mailing list. We'll tell you when we're going to do live events.
Nice.
So you don't have to.
I'm going to do
that. You should definitely.
I'm going to do
up.
that.
You should definitely sign up. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
See you next time.